Hey, this is Steven Platinum, your friend in wrestling, with Platinum versus NXT from November 25th, 2020. I'm recording this the next day. So happy Thanksgiving. Whether you celebrate the bad boy or not, happy Thanksgiving to you. So we got Takeover Wargames 2020 coming up. And so we've got a whole lot of build going on for that, and they're doing a quite a stellar job with that, I've got to say. Last week featured the best women's wrestling match that's been on television for anybody in a long time, rivaling the Sasha Banks Bayley stuff. And we're at the Capitol Wrestling Center in Orlando, Florida. Vic Joseph, I believe, is the guy welcoming us. He's going to be joined by Kevin Owens, who's filling in for Wade Barrett. Okay, works for me. We got Ember Moon versus Candice LeRae right from the jump, which I really like to see. How's the match? The match is very good. No doubt about it. They're really doing a competitive match right off the jump. Perhaps they're feeling the sort of push-pull from Dynamite, who always starts off with a match, and they always give us the match in the entirety before they go to commercial. LeRae, though, gets there's a little bit of interference, or there's a little bit of distraction going on, and that kind of thing. So LeRae gets the win, which is a little bit of a shock to me. Now, I'm not overtly familiar with NXT yet, but to me it just seemed like a surprising thing in a good way. Moon is surrounded by the various heel ladies. She retreats to the floor. And then, LeRae attacks her, Kai Gonzalez. After Storm unloads on her. Storm apparently was going to be a partner for Moon in the War Games, but apparently has turned on her and is now filling out the heel side of the roster. To have a swerve happen in the first match under these circumstances, I've got to say, really surprising, really fascinating, and from what I've seen of Storm, I think it's the right move too. So kudos NXT, starting your show off very, very strong. So we go to the Undisputed Era. They're entering the building, which they did earlier today, and we go to commercial. And back from the break, a bunch of guys are having drinks. I do like that they're having this conversation about the history of Lucha. And that they're going to take the Cruiserweight title from the side show to the main show. I like this discussion they're having because it feels like the kind of discussion you would have if all of this was the real world. This is the world that they're setting up for us, and I really like what they're doing. I don't know what kind of audience this is really going to attract, unfortunately, but I personally enjoy it very, very much. So we go back to the ring, and out comes the Undisputed Era, right? It's Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, and, of course, Adam Cole. And we see a clip from the Pat McAfee's podcast, The Punta, where he's knocking them, and he praises the kings of NXT, and he mentions that he won't be there. The Undisputed Era takes the mic, and they say how much they're tired of people saying they're going to take over stuff and all of that. 2 weeks is when they're going to have this War Games, and so they're all going to take turns beating them up. Cole brings up the fact that there's going to be a ladder match for the War Games advantage, and they're going to focus on that. McAfee picked Dunn for tonight's match, but he doesn't know who he's going to go up against. So O'Reilly wants to fight Dunn because of what happened at Halloween Havoc. And Cole's all about it. Everybody else is about it too. They love an angry Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly's a guy that I booked quite a bit at the very beginning of his career when he was working with Davey Richards and stuff. Really bright guy, a really sharp guy, really fun to see him have this level of success. And you got to feel like the best is yet to come from him as well, which is really great. Um, so we got Mackenzie Mitchell backstage. Candice LeRae dismisses her. Now she's talking to Dakota Kai and Gonzalez and all that kind of stuff. So they got the Wargames team. It's LeRae, of course, Kai Gonzalez, and Tony Storm. Oh, boy. Man. We see Timothy Thatch Can students watching in the back because he's going to face Kushida. So we got a little promo too. Normally I wouldn't bring up the promos, but it's cute. It's fun with Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano, who's got this Santa Claus beard and hat. I think that kind of stuff's really fun. I think it's good to get the NXT people doing that stuff as much as possible too. We got Kushida and Timothy Thatcher. We come back from the break and we can finally get the match started. Tommaso Ciampa comes down the ramp. He sets the chair down and he's watching. The match, predictably great. Of course it's great. And Kushida grabs him in what they call the hoverboard lock, and Thatcher taps. Holy crap. I'm clearly relatively new to NXT. I mean, I've watched it off and on, but now I'm watching it every week. And I'm so bad at predicting who's going to win, which is a good thing, I suppose. So Thatcher's mad. He had to tap out. Him and Ciampa stare at each other. A lot of distraction stuff going on. Oof. I'm going to put out a Pro Wrestler's Handbook about how you can go against the stereotypes in booking that always get booked in wrestling, and how there are exceptions to the rule happening right now that show how great it can be if you break these sort of typical ways to have finishes and matches and things like that. But let's get back. We get a video package about that great match between Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai. Ripley's wondering where she's going to go next. Kevin Owens is going to have the KO show with Leon Ruff, and we could go to commercial again. And Pete Dunne is in the back. Man, a lot of talky shit on NXT. I mean, it's on the level of Raw or SmackDown or even more, which is just really odd to me. Pete Dunne. He's going to have that match against Kyle O'Reilly to see who gets the advantage in the War Games. Pat McAfee indeed was not there. And then the KO show's happening. Here comes Leon Ruff. So Ruff rants a little bit, mentions Gargano by name and how he beat him. And Owens predicts that Gargano is in the back yelling for his music to be played. And then here comes Gargano. So Gargano's throwing a fit, tosses a chair out of the ring, crowd's booing him, all that kind of good stuff. Long and short, I don't like the thing where Owens is kind of like, oh, well, where's, our version of Teddy Long to make these matches? It's just, again, it's sort of shitting on what they're doing to put himself over. I just don't like it. I think it just sort of takes away from one of the strengths of NXT, which is it's this show that flows based on competition. And instead, he's just bringing up like, oh, where's NXT's version of this other show? It's just, I don't like it. I don't think it helps anybody. So, but William Regal does indeed come down, and he announces Priest versus Gargano versus Ruff in a triple threat at the Takeover War Games event. And then he says playa as he walks off in reference to the Teddy Long thing that Kevin Owens said earlier. All right. Finn Balor has got a little promo here. He's basically saying whatever team wins, he's going to go after. So we get Shotzi Blackheart vignette to promote War Games. She's working on her new tank. Now we get Cameron Grimes against Jake Atlas. pretty good match here. Cameron Grimes wins. Puts on his hat. Dexter Lumis appears, and Grimes is terrified. Lumis points to the big screen. Lumis reveals what's in the bag. It's a set of leather straps. He tosses a side out to Grimes. Grimes picks him up and drops him. He says it's never going to happen. Okay, so eventually we're going to have a strap match. I got you. Rhea Ripley's walking backstage. We go to commercial. Boy, WWE loves that shit, don't they? I don't know why they think that that's a draw, but it is. But they think it is. Cameron Grimes is backstage now saying he's not afraid of Dexter Lumis. Weird. And then he makes the strap match happen for TakeOver. Of course he does. This is the part where I felt like NXT really ran aground a little bit, kind of working against itself. Just odd. I just find that interplay odd. Rhea Ripley's waiting back at the ring. She gives props to Io Shirai. And she said she hugged Io Shirai after the match out of respect. She says she's focused on the NXT Women's title. But here come Candice LeRae and Toni Storm. Patronizes her for talking respectfully. LeRae's taunting her. She motions for somebody to come from the back. Gonzalez is carrying Shirai over her shoulder. She puts her down on the stage. They're going for the ring, but Ripley goes outside and meets him at ringside, which makes her look really good. She's taken everybody out, but eventually the numbers kind of like overwhelm her. And we're going to commercial with Ripley laid out. Really good segment. I thought this was the strongest segment of the night. Xia Li and Boa are getting into a car. They look really emotional. They look kind of not so great. They get on their knees in front of a hooded woman. And okay. So we got this team called Everrise. God, these names suck. Matt Martell and Chase Parker. They're attacked by James Drake and Zach Gibson from NXT UK, apparently. They declare that they're the grizzled young veterans. They're going to be in NXT soon and recognized as number one. People boo, and then they double team Parker again. Candice LeRae, my God, has she been in the show a fuck ton. She's in the back with her teammates. Mackenzie approaches. She says anyone stupid enough to join Shotzi's team is going to get run over, basically. And then she says, you know, the icing on the cake's going to come because Raquel Gonzalez, who they were smart enough to have carry out Io Shirai to make her look tough. She's going to beat Shotzi and get that Wargames advantage. Gargano comes over and interrupts, tells his wife that they got to go. And he says he's going to take his title back at TakeOver. They all get in the car. And we see the mystery person in the back with the scream mask on. But it can't be Indy Hartwell this time, right? Right. So Gargano drives LeRae and her crew away. Now we get the ladder match for the Wargames advantage. As O'Reilly's coming to the ring, Dunn attacks right away. So Dunn is on the floor. Riley is in the ring, and then we go to commercial. The fuck? Back from the break. They've been going at it. A very good match, as one would expect. When O'Reilly, takes a powerbomb right into this ladder in the corner. Very devastating looking. Fans are chanting. It's all good. All that good stuff. Really good match here. Just no way, two ways about it. Then we get more shenanigans and bullshit. O'Reilly runs back in, tips the ladder over, making Dunn bounce off the leaning ladder. And O'Reilly slowly climbing up, but a masked man, oh God, enters the ring, shoves the ladder over. O'Reilly flies out. Masked man leaves. Dunn comes back in and gets the briefcase. Alicia Taylor announces him as the winner. The Kings of NXT are going to have the advantage in the War Games. It looks like, I guess, the same silver mask that Pat McAfee wore weeks ago. Which is I don't know. So the heels have the advantage in the War Games, as it should be. This NXT was good. I mean, it's, they got 2 weeks of basically go home. This felt like the go home for the men, and then next week will be the go home for the women, which makes sense because the women's stuff is much more layered and it's better, frankly, and more interesting. So anyway, this has been Platinum versus NXT. Happy Thanksgiving, sucker.